If Arjuna could see that in the highest sense he is free of all identities and is therefore the pure self, then there would remain no question of grief. Grief is only if one has accepted a mortal identity. An identity that involves taking birth, staying alive, and then expiring. Only in the case of this particular identity or the set of various identities that spring from this one, that grief becomes inevitable. The point is that grief is not necessary. That grief is not predestined. That grief has a clear and fundamental connection to what you take yourself to be. There is a causal relationship. Arjuna isn't grieving without reason. The reason is identity. So, Sri Krishna attempts to instruct and educate Arjuna in the highest identity possible, an identity free of all griefs. The highest identity is of pure self. Arjuna, you are Atman itself. No identities apply to you. In the Atman, it is that which is free of the entire expanse of Prakriti. It is so free that it cannot be even named. It is so free that it can only be very gently and subtly pointed at. All births, all deaths are in the domain of Prakriti. You're not that. And that's the most fundamental teaching of all wisdom literature. In fact, anything that is understood to be or claims to be related to wisdom and does not bring you to a point of freedom from all Prakritic identities must be rejected as not being related to wisdom at all. freedom from all identities is the most fundamental wisdom from where all other beautiful and useful truisms, dictums, aphorisms, etc. can spring. But if you have great sutras or aphorisms, quotations, sayings, various kinds of high sounding truths, and they do not have freedom from identities at their base, they then ought to be rejected. Because this is the seed of all wisdom. You are none of what you take yourself to be. And if you are not that, then you cannot grieve over loss of something related to that. You are in no way related to that house. Why are you grieving over the decaying furniture in that house? How wise is that? Do you do that? How many houses have you seen your entire life? Thousands, lakhs. No? Even in this journey you undertook to reach this place, you must have passed by thousands of houses, didn't you? Did it bother you what was going on in there? Did it? Because you do not identify with those houses. So anything that happens there is none of your concern. And if there is a house, there is always so much happening inside. You will find fanciful but hollow reasons to celebrate, to grieve, to worry. Are you getting it? So, seeing oneself as distinct from the entire field of Prakriti, as the very witness of all things and actions, is at the root of all wisdom. And like a true friend, true mentor, true guide, Sri Krishna first thing attempts to bring Arjuna to that deepest root, which is also the highest point of all philosophy pertaining to wisdom. Arjun, you are not any specific thing in Prakriti. You are not even related to Prakriti. Because you can see all that. In fact, only when you can see what is going on in Prakriti in an impartial, dispassionate, neutral, desireless way, then you are free of Prakriti, free of all identities relating to Prakriti. That freedom is the very goal of human life. That freedom is the highest possible. And if that can be seen, there can be no grief. But Arjun is yet not ripe enough to open himself to this realization. Words come to him and bounce back. Krishna's attempt does not materialize on Arjuna. Grief remains. Indecision, frustration, dilemma remains. So then Krishna makes another attempt. He says, right, I can see that you identify with the world of senses and beings, this Prakritic universe. Then please attempt something that I am suggesting to you. Even if you want to take yourself as a body, as a thing, can you please rise above taking yourself as a specific thing? Even if it is becoming impossible for you to see yourself as totally beyond the material, can you please see yourself as material itself in general and not any particular bit of material? Can you see that, please? Can you see that there is no particularity or specificity possible in material, because the material that makes you, informs you, is just the same as the material that informs this chariot, these horses, these clothes, and these very opponents of yours? Can you see that Prakriti is nothing but material, and therefore there can be nothing specific or particular in Prakriti? No possibility of anything being really distinct from the other. It's just a vast ocean of atoms and molecules with no real separation. The thing that makes you believe in the separation is called the ego. There is just the fundamental unit of material everywhere. Man sits on the sofa. How do you know these are two? How do you know these are two? In fact, if the man falls asleep, there is nobody to say there are two. Right? So who says these are two? Only the ego. The ego is the boundary. The ego defines that one bit of material is separate from another bit of material, right? Otherwise, there is just the material. And if somehow one leg of the sofa could develop an ego similar to that of sentient beings, the sofa too would start claiming some individuality. And individuality means distinction. I am separate. Right now, to you, the sofa is one composite unit, right? You don't say there are 5 things in the sofa, 4 legs and a seat. Do you say that? The sofa is one thing. But if the different parts of the sofa develop an ego like human beings, the sofa too would be 5 or 6 things. There is the backrest, there is the seat, there are the 4 legs, there are the arms, the arms rests. There is so much. And if in spite of the visible distinctions in the sofa set, we take the sofa as one thing. Then why can't the system containing of the sofa and the human being be taken as one thing? If four legs, armrests, back, seat can be taken as one thing, right? Six parts are being called by one particular common name, which is fine. We don't find anything strange in that, do we? Then why can't the system be expanded to say six legs, two armrests, backrest, seat, and the man? All this is one single system. Why can't it be that said? Because the man has ego, and the ego is the boundary. The ego is the boundary. Otherwise, there is just the unending sea of atoms and molecules. Nothing but atoms and molecules. And they are constantly vibrating. And vibration is change. You cannot have anything in the universe that is not changing at all. Not possible. Rates of change, etc., might differ. Change remains. So please understand two things very clearly here. One, if Arjun, you are to take the Prakritic universe, the material, as real, then kindly do me a favor. Please see that if this is real, which is fine, take this as real, then all the distinctions that you see in it are illusory. All right, it is real. There are atoms, there are molecules. We do not deny that. But then there are only atoms and only molecules. There are no distinctions. All distinctions are mere appearances, right? Why do you want to call a thing as separate from the other? Why do you want to call a thing as sentient? So the highest wisdom is to be able to see that you are beyond all molecular motion. And when you are seeing that, that is called witnessing. I can see what this entire ocean of Prakriti is about. I can see that. And then you have nothing to do with the things that rise, the things that fall, what comes, what goes. That is the highest. And if you cannot see that, even then there is the possibility of respite. At least be detached enough to observe that all molecules are fundamentally alike. The highest thing is to see that you are not a molecule at all. You are beyond not just what you call as your body, but all bodiness. You are not embodied. This is the highest. And if that is too much for you, if you are not yet ripe and ready for that, then at least see that you are material, molecular, And so is everything else. The fundamental constituents, building units of all material is the same. Red, black, yellow, white are very superficial. Large and small are just dimensions. Solid, liquid, gas are just states. The more you go inside the material, you realize everything is just one. The differences keep on reducing. You will be left with no logic to claim that you are separate. Hmm? So two persons are appearing so distinct as they sit on the sofa. There is the man, there is the woman. They differ in all possible ways: age, gender, height, history, right? And you ask them who they are, and if the answer is, well, we are this particular body, and you look at the body, then the thousands of diversities that they claim among themselves get reduced to something like 20 or 40. Right? You are the body, and the other person is the body. And if the body is what you claim to be, then both your bodies are carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, and several organic and inorganic compounds. Right? Then you get into those compounds, and you find even if the compounds differ, they are fundamentally all made up of mostly carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. The diversity reduces even further. Right? Then you say still there is some diversity. There is carbon, there is hydrogen, there is oxygen, and there is, let's say, sodium or iron. All these are present in the body. So you look at carbon and you look at iron. So different. And you get into them and you say, okay, not so much different finally. There are just electrons, neutrons, and protons. And different numbers of E and P make different atoms. So all diversity has come down to 3. They appeared so different in 100 ways, and that has reduced to 3. Ultimately, this one is ENP and this one is also ENP. And then you get inside what you call as ENP. You discover that even ENP are not fundamental. Even they can be broken down. They are not indivisible, these particles. We just around 100 years back, we thought that these are indivisible particles. Today we know they are not. Today we know that an electron is made of the same stuff that a proton is made of. Same stuff. So ultimately, you are led to seeing that all this that you see is just diverse expressions of one fundamental particle. You could call that as particle or a tendency. The wise ones from the past did not use the term particle. They used the term tendency. They said there is just one tendency that expresses itself in countless ways and becomes so many different things. One tendency becomes an infinite range of diverse things. And some of those things, or probably all of those things, we do not know, develop what we call as a false self, the ego. And those things actually start believing that they have a separate, distinct existence of their own. You remember the man and the sofa example? The fact is that the man and sofa are one undivided system. There is nothing really that separates the man from the sofa, and that can be proven if the man falls deeply asleep, or if the man somehow slips into a coma, or if the man dies, or if the man is liberated. Then the man and the sofa become one. Therefore, liberation is called the great death. Liberation is when you start seeing yourself as indistinct from the sofa. Liberation is not when you start seeing yourself as indistinct from God. That's what happens to many people who claim enlightenment. They say, I'm not separable from God anymore. Me and God are indistinct now. No. You and the shoe should be indistinct now. You and the rubbish, you and the soil. These should become indistinct now. Then you are liberated. Claiming complete identification with God is not egolessness. It might actually be great and ugly ego. The liberated one is the one who says, I am one with the soil. I don't care about God. I see I am the soil. I see I am the sofa. These legs and these socks are one. This is liberation. And this is death. This should be easier to see. If you cannot see with detachment that this is just the game of Prakriti and you are nowhere in it, then this should be comparatively easier to see. Yes, I am here, fine. I take myself to be the body. I don't yet have the guts or the wisdom to say I am not the body. No, I don't have that. But I at least have the honesty to say that my body and his body are just the. Otherwise, how is blood transfusion possible? Tell me, please. How is it possible that oxygen becomes your body? If your body and the universe are different, when you emerged from the mother's womb, you were this big. How have you become this 80-kilogram thing? Surely the universe has become this body, which means this body and the universe are the same thing. Constantly it is happening. No? One strand of this hair would fall right now and would become the soil. It is happening all the time. We might not know. What happens to the carbon dioxide you exhale? It becomes the tree. You look at the wood out there, that wood is your lungs. That wood is your lungs. Something emerged from the lungs and became the wood. The tree used the stuff that you exhaled. So at least have the honesty to say that there is no way this body is separable from the universe. But that's a remarkable thing to see, because that makes you immortal. And that's the point Sri Krishna is trying to push. Arjun, you are immortal, and so are all the others you are grieving over. Death is just not possible in Prakriti. One thing can only become another thing, and all things are one. All things are just the fundamental particle or the fundamental seed or the fundamental tendency. Things just keep turning into other things. Like a great ocean waving, the wave can become the bubble. We are assuming that the air too is part of the oceanic system. So the wave, the great wave, the tsunami can turn into a very tender and innocent bubble. Think. We imagine a tsunami wave as something horrific and monstrous and gigantic, and it can turn into the most tender bubble possible. Things just keep changing from one shape into another. But their fundamental unit is the same. Nothing dies. There is no way anything can die in Prakriti, Arjun. What are you grieving over? Come on. Just have fun. Nothing dies here. Because everything is dying all the time. All the time. Prakriti and time are just the same thing. Which means constancy is a word Prakriti does not honor. Even for the millionth part of a nanosecond, nothing can be stable. It's impossible. And if that is a constant, who's dying here? The universe remains as it is. It's just that things are changing shape within the universe. If you have to identify, don't identify yourself with a particular thing in the universe. Identify with the universe itself. And as you said, the universe is constant. That is the only constant. So if that is the only constant, then are you ever dying? Either I am the witness of the universe or I am the universe itself. In either case, I cannot die. But what do you choose to become? A particular thing in the universe. And this thing is very feeble. I drop it, it dies. And then there is grief. This is fundamental human sorrow. Either I am nothing at all, says sage Ashtavakra, or I am everything all at once. It's a beautiful verse. In fact, that should be your activity for the day. Dig it out. Either I am nothing at all, which is the Paramarthic level. I am the Atman itself, so I am nothing at all here. Or I am everything at once. But individuality is delusion and grief. So that's not something I'm going to accept, honor, or identify with. Either I am nothing at all, which is the mark of the great renunciate, or I am everything at once, which is the mark of the emperor of emperors. But I am not a commoner. I am not a householder. I am not someone who will say, this much is my territory. Either I am the kind of emperor who holds the entire universe in his sway, or I am somebody who has kicked the entire universe away. Nice limerick. Either I am the emperor who holds the entire universe in his sway, or I am the monk who has kicked the entire universe away. But I am nothing in between. This in-betweenness is the sorrow of life. Either I am everything or nothing at all. And that's why in the Indian way, those on the path of wisdom have been referred to by these two names. They have been called Swamis, the emperors, or they have been called sannyasis, the bhikshus. The same thing. If I take myself to be everything at all, then I deserve to be called a Swami. Because it's Swami, Maharaj. Or I am nothing at all. And then you are called the sannyasi or the bhikshu. So, Krishna is offering both the possibilities to Arjuna. Arjuna, either be a watcher of the universe, the entire Prakritic expanse, or if you choose to say that the body or Prakriti or material is your reality, then at least see that all material is the same and material never dies. Prakriti in itself is immortal. All mortality is only to the ego. Prakriti does not die. If you are the ego, you will die. If you are the body, then you cannot die. The body never dies. It's only the ego that dies. The body is never afraid of dying. It is the ego that is afraid of dying. When the ego is put to rest, does the body weep? When you are sleeping, and even if it's your last day, you very well know you are so sick that tomorrow probably there would be death. But if you fall asleep, does the body weep? Tomorrow, this skin is going to burn, which is just oxidation, nothing more, by the way. Tomorrow, this skin is going to burn. Yet, is the skin weeping and grieving tonight? No, the skin is all right. Skin is all right. But the moment you wake up and there is some neuronic activity here and you are reminded that tomorrow is your last day, you start weeping. Is the body weeping? No. The body does not die. So the body is wise enough to not to weep because body knows I'll be only oxidized. Nothing more than that. Your arm will only turn into something else. No molecule can ever escape the universe. And if a molecule escapes the universe, it only expands the universe. So how can anything die in the universe? Can you think of universe as some kind of wide plate and some molecules are shooting out of that? No, that's not possible. Everything remains here. You have nowhere to go. When Raman Maharshi was breathing his last, somebody said, where will we find you now? And people were all around him. And they were weeping and disconsolate. And these were almost the last words of the Maharshi. He said, I'm not going anywhere. I'm not going anywhere. You see that? If you were the witness, how can you go away? And if you are the body too is not going anywhere. What comes and goes is the illusion. And people like Maharshi are wise because they have seen the illusion. Death is neither to the Atma nor to Prakriti. Death is only to Ahankar. Sri Krishna is trying to bring Arjuna to either of the two levels so that he can go beyond the grief of death. Arjuna is obstinate. He doesn't relent. People are going to die, people are going to die. Who is going to die? Prakriti is just Sat, Raj, Tam. They remain as they are. Hmm? What you see as one man here is just a particular combination of these three. To explain in the way of Sankhya, one man that you see here is just a particular combination of the three gunas. That particular combination will again spring up in some other place, in some other. It's not going anywhere. Why do you want to attach individuality to something? There is no individuality. What causes this individuality? No, nothing. Just desire. You look at all the leaves of the tree. Do you take them as individual leaves? Do you do that? One leaf falls. Do you grieve? No. And if somebody will ask you, you will say, very wisely, very intelligently, all leaves are just the same. What is the point in weeping if one leaf has fallen? There are a million other leaves there. It's an entire forest, not just even a tree. And if a leaf has fallen, 40 other leaves have come up in just the same moment. What is there to grieve over? There we act very intelligently, but all intelligence becomes subservient the moment there is desire. The moment you get attached to one particular leaf, you stop seeing that that leaf is not distinct from the million other leaves. Now that leaf becomes your leaf. You will probably even name your leaf because now it is your leaf. Leafu. And now when leafu falls, there is great sorrow. Otherwise, leaves keep falling. And makes no sense to beat your chest. A leaf is a leaf, and there is no real difference between this leaf and the other leaf. But desire and attachment give birth to individuality and division. You cannot be desirous of a thing without seeing it as divided from other things. You cannot be desirous of the whole. Is it possible? If somebody asks you, what do you want? Will you ever say, I want the universe? You'll always have to want some divided little thing in the universe. Desire and division are names of the same thing. You lose perspective. You lose a holistic sense. You only start seeing the little, the tiny, the divided, the micro. Because only that can be consumed. You cannot say, I tote over the whole universe. I want to eat it up. That would be absurd because you are in the universe, a part of the universe. How can you desire the whole universe? Are you kidding? Either I am not molecular at all, or I am a molecule just as there are an infinite number of other molecules. In either case, I don't die. In either case, I never took birth. Just that in the case of Prakriti, it could be rephrased as I am always taking birth and always dying. Because in Prakriti, just as things are immortal, they are still always changing. So you could equally say, I am always taking birth and always dying. Getting it? So it's all right. Please see that you need not grieve Arjun, but Arjun, as we said, is adamant. So Krishna says the path of freedom from identities is not yet for Arjuna. The path of freedom from identities. Krishna is trying to either give a zero identity to Arjuna or give a universal identity to Arjuna. Arjuna is not yet ready. Arjuna is stuck in his in between particular divided identity. So Krishna has to try something else. And he will move to that now. Though moving to something else is entirely needless. There is no wisdom that is not contained in the two levels that Sri Krishna has just now educated Arjuna in. Okay, according to the second level, where you are just undivided Prakriti, where does a dead person go? There was the person, and you say he died. Now, where is he now? Let's say he was there. Where is he now? Yes. You see that? If you have to find that person, where would you find him now? In the soil. He's still there. He's not gone away anywhere. He's there. Very much there. In the soil. And soil does not merely mean the thing below your feet. It also means all the people around you and all the birds flying over your head. That too is soil. That body that you saw in one shape has now become innumerable bodies. And it was anyway becoming innumerable bodies all the time. All the time. It's not that the body was in one unit and now it has become 40,000 units. No, the body was actually never in one unit. Even the apparition that there is one unit is quite a delusion. Please see that even as you exhale air, we know the basic class 10th 12th stuff, the Avogadro's number. 1 mole of this exhaled air contains 10 to the power 23 units. 6.023 into 10 to the power 23 to be particular. Do you understand 10 to the power 23? Can you see 23 zeros there in front of 1? What does that mean? That means that there are just so many units that some units are bound to make way into every system possible. If 10 to the power 23 units are being exhaled every moment, aren't they finding their way into every system possible? Please understand. Which means any living being anywhere is actually carrying a part of your body. 10 to the power 23. I exhale that, and not once in my life, but every moment in my life. I'm exhaling all that stuff. Where is that stuff going? Everywhere. Which means that, that person, unknown person living in Zambia, is actually carrying a part of your body. And where is your body coming from? It is carrying parts of bodies of everything in the universe. Everything in the universe has come together to become your body. You are not a single divisible individual unit. No. And that is a continuous process. There is a continuous exchange. It is not that something was contributed from here, something came from here, something came from here, something came from here, and finally you were made. No. It's not like preparing a veg curry. You take 5 grams of that, 24 grams of that, 4 pieces of that, this much salt, that much oil, and you put that together and the curry is made. No. It's a living process in which there is a continuous exchange. Everything is becoming you and you are becoming everything else. Things are always mingling with each other. Like waves in an ocean. One wave, it gives an appearance of distinctiveness. And what happens to it the next moment? It merges into some other wave. And not that only two waves are merging. What do you think? Two cells united to give you this body? We say, oh no, the father cell, the mother cell, they came together and the baby was born. Stupid. The entire universe came together and then you were born. Everything in the universe, when it comes together, then you are born. You are the universe personified, not just your father and mother. How can you die? Please tell me. Can the universe die? And if you are the universe, how will you die? How will you die? When you do not see this, then you conceptualize the soul. The soul is the worst form of egoistic ignorance. The worst expression of the fundamental delusion is the soul, the Jivatma. It is just the ego. No? What does the Jivatma say? I am neither the witness nor even the body. When the body will die, I will escape to find another body. And Arjun seems to be a believer in Jivatma. He is, and he expresses that in chapter 1 itself. He says all the Jivatmas of our ancestors are roaming about thirsty and hungry. And we have to perform certain ceremonies to give them food. Shraddh, Tarpan, those things. And they will not accept food and water if it is not coming from the rightly bred progeny. If Varnasankar offers food and water to all the souls out there, they will refuse and they will suffer. And if they will suffer, a great curse falls on us. We too will suffer. That's Arjun's argument. Arjun is coming from that line of thought. There has always been a struggle between core Vedanta and the imaginative kind of religion. That struggle continues even to this day. You understand? When a person dies, there is nothing called soul that escapes away to some other place. When a person dies, he becomes the universe which he always was. You'll find him in flowers. You'll find him in the winds. He's not gone away. He's still singing. But in ways that you must now be ready to accept. The ego wants only particular ways. You speak to me in a particular way. I speak to you in a particular way. I appear in one way to you. And one day this body will fall and you will say this man has died. Why has this man died? You see, he used to come and bore us with his lectures at 10:30 p.m. every night. Now he's not speaking anymore, so he is obviously gone. No, he is not gone, really. He's still speaking, but in other languages. You must be able to, or ready to rather, lend your ears to the whispering wind. That man is still speaking. You should be ready to hear. Nobody goes away anywhere. The form changes. Are you getting it? They are all here. And they are all the universe. It's not that one man has a certain identity that will float around somewhere. The man was always the entire universe. And he will, after his death, still remain the entire universe. Individuality is ego, individuality is the delusion that causes grief. We are not separate from anything. Once you start seeing that, you become non-violent. Therefore, we say that ahimsa and agyan do not go together. Non-violence is not possible without seeing the oneness of all existence. If I hurt you, I'm hurting myself because I am you. We are not distinct. You cannot have this shape that you currently have or seem to have without everything having the shape that it has. If the earth changes its shape, will man retain his shape? Please tell me. If the radius of earth changes, will the height of man remain the same? I want to know. The moment the radius of earth changes, what changes? The gravitational pull. If the gravitational pull changes, the shape of your body cannot remain the same. Your body will change itself according to the changed shape of earth, which means the body and the earth are one. The liberated one is both. Depends on your position. Parasentient and insentient. You could either call him as meta-conscious, consciousness beyond duality, a non-dual consciousness, meta-conscious. Or in some other way, if you call him unconscious, you are again not wrong. What is certain is that he is not conscious in the usual way. Usual consciousness is just stupid duality. I am there, you see. I am the one contained between these two shoulders. My I-ness begins from here and ends here, and begins from here and ends there. I am the one contained in this skin sack. There's this skin sack, and what is within the sack is me. This is the dead duality, the mother of all suffering. I take myself as a closed system. Forget about it, this being not spiritual. This is also unscientific. Man is not a closed system. There is no way we have any kind of separate existence. What are all these openings in the body for? If you have a separate existence, what is this mouth for? Close the mouth and show me you can survive. Close these nostrils. In fact, life becomes tough even if you close these ears or these eyes, no? These openings tell us that we are open systems, deeply interconnected. There is no way this can survive without that, because this is that. Therefore, this is not going away anywhere. Krishna will say, I was always here. Does he not? Arjun, you too have always been here. But you take yourself as this particular embodiment. Therefore, there is no way you can remember that you were always here. I find it fantastic. Buddhism totally refuses to endorse any kind of personal rebirth because they take the person as non-existent, shunya. And yet, that very instructive book, the Jatak Tales, is nothing but all of Buddha's previous births. How is that possible? Buddha is saying there is nothing within. Even in this birth. And the Buddha is merrily narrating hundreds of tales of his previous births. What does that mean? Where is that coming from? That is the identity, the wholeness of existence he is talking about. He says, I can see that the person in my tales is me. Therefore, I can refer to him as my previous birth. But that does not mean that the person in my tale is also not your previous birth. That person is not exclusively my ancestor or something. Ancestor in the terms of birthing. If that is my previous birth, that is also your previous birth, because all persons are contained in each other. That's also the point that Sri Krishna is trying to make to Arjuna. Not that Sri Krishna has any specific memory of his previous births or any previous conversations he had with Arjuna. But he says anything and everything that happened before me is me. Because all persons are me. But Arjun, you think of yourself as a special person who took birth in a particular year, married in a particular year, built his house in a particular year, and will die in a particular year. You think of yourself as a particularity. I see myself as a generality. Therefore, you are in grief, and I am enjoying this game. Anybody who came before me is me. And anybody who will come after me is, and not just human beings, even leaves, even waves, stars, constellations. All that is me. All that was me even before me, all that is me during me, and all that will be me after me. So who's dying? Please tell me. There is nobody here to die. Nobody here to die. Enjoy the game of the waves. There is this toy that is there for kids. So they have good fun with it. So it consists of a big bowl, a big bowl, a cylindrical bowl, and there are droplets of various colors in it. Various colors. Big droplets. And there is a rotor that you have to manually operate. So you leave the system as it is, and all those little globules, they remain separate. The substances are immiscible, and these are brightly colored large drops, so that the child can remain entertained. And then there is the handle, and then you turn it, and what happens? They get mixed. And when they get mixed, there is this fantastic kaleidoscopic pattern, rather range of patterns that keeps emerging and changing, because these things are really immiscible. They cannot mix with each other. But when there is an external force, for some moment they mix. And they mix in very unpredictable ways, depending on the speed of rotation and depending on various other conditions. And so very spectacular patterns emerge, but only for a moment. If you reduce the speed of rotation, then the patterns change. And if you stop rotating altogether, then within a few seconds, all those things become separate again. That's the universe. Nothing goes away anywhere, but things get mixed up for a while. And then they again get separated. And they can again get mixed up. And an infinite range of diversities is possible from this. Anything can get mixed up with anything else, and any kind of new species can be born. So I'll say there are 8 or 9 different kinds of huge drops, or I will call them drops, in that toy. In the game of Prakriti, only 3 are there. Trigunatmak Prakriti, Satrajtam. And these 3 get mixed together in an infinite number of ways. And that's a mathematical thing, infinite number of ways. To give an infinite number of diversities. We think those diversities are really separate. They are not. They are the expression of the various of the fundamental thing. To be liberated is to see this game. This now mixes with this. So this beautiful thing comes up. And now that beautiful thing makes way for another beautiful thing. Right when you are grieving, something beautiful is being formed. That which you are grieving over has turned into something even more beautiful. What are you grieving over? It's like grieving over rice. No, because you have the dosa in front of you. Where is the rice? The rice is gone. And you can't see the dosa. And you're missing out on the dosa. Right when you were weeping over the rice, the dosa was getting cold. That's how we miss out on the fun. This is fine. The dimension of identities is not for you, Arjun. Right now, I was addressing the question, who am I? Who am I? And I tried to answer it beneficially for you in 2 ways. I am nothing, or I am everything. I was using that approach, but that approach does not seem to be working. I'll try something else. And what is the approach now being tried? Forget about the self. Forget about the actor. Now look at the action, because that is easier to see. The actor is subtle. It can become invisible to the eyes. But the actions cannot be missed. Actions are so obvious. So now Arjun is being instructed in the dimension of actions. Actions. How does Krishna begin? Verse 39. He says, in your usual kind of action, that is 39, where he says, now I'm changing track. I'll now instruct you on action. And why do you need to be instructed on action? Verse 40. He says the usual actions that you do. You act in one particular way, and you find that the product of the action has perished. So there is a great limit to your action, no? And right now, anyway, you are confronted with the question of whether or not to act. So this approach will probably resonate more with you. Arjun, right now, the question in your own language is that whether or not I should act. What does action mean? Fighting. Whether or not I should act. So I'll now instruct you in the path of action. Karma Yoga. He says, you see, you look at the normal kinds of actions that we perform. And the problem with that is that actions are perishable, and also that the actions involve a certain obligation, a certain pressure. And therefore, there is fear associated with actions. I will instruct you in the path of action that involves neither destruction nor obligation. That's verse 40. People act in in myriad ways. Show me one person whose actions have not been destroyed by time. Whatever comes out of your action is destroyed by time. At the same time, if you do not act, you remain in fear and guilt. You feel impelled to act. I have to act, I have to act. And if you act, your action is destroyed by time. Is it so? That is also your dilemma right now. I will instruct you in the path of right action. Forget about the actor and identities and all that stuff. Let's move on. Let's move on to something that will probably be more beneficial to you. Though the fact is, through the discourse on action, Krishna will definitely take Arjuna to the actor. But Arjuna is displaying an incapacity to directly go to the actor. So now he is being rooted via action. It's a longer path. Krishna wanted the straight path, the shortest path, the direct path. But Arjuna was not up to it. So now a longer path is being taken. Longer, but probably more beneficial. The longer path is, okay, let's talk of action, and from there we'll approach the actor. Ultimately, the actor has to be approached. Any discourse on wisdom that does not come ultimately to a discussion on identity, to a deliberation or meditation on the question, who am I, is just wasteful. If you come across a book that claims to be spiritual or about wisdom, and you want to assess the worth of the book, just figure out whether it goes into the question of identity. If it is not talking of identity, if it is not addressing who am I, and instead talking of 40 other things, it's crap. Drop it. And the thing that applies to the book also applies to teachers, also applies to scriptures. Therefore, I always emphasize that even renowned books, so-called religious books, are worthy of being called scriptures only if they go into the question, who am I? Who am I, and why am I in bondage, and therefore how do I be liberated? Only if a book delves into this question, then it is worthy of being called a scripture. Otherwise, it is a story book. Otherwise, it is a book of beliefs. A book of assumptions and superstitions. Not worthy of being called scriptural or spiritual. Unfortunately, most of the books that are referred to as scriptures just do not touch upon the question of identity. And that is the reason why religion has become the worst kind of influence on human life. Because what goes by the name of religion is actually not religion at all. Religion is a very simple thing, the exploration of your real name, real face, real identity, real address, and real destiny, which is discovered when you know your real origin. Most of us think that our origin is in the mother's womb. No. Religion is what explores these things, your origin, your destiny, your name, your face. You getting it? And your real voice. A book that goes into all these is worthy of being called a scripture. A teacher who goes into all these is worthy of being called a guru. Otherwise, not. You can talk of several other things in the name of religion. That does not make your discourse religious, your book a scripture, or you a guru. Are you getting it? So Krishna begins by telling Arjun, you see, Arjun, the way we act is so stupid. We keep acting and nothing comes out of those actions. Our actions are reduced to ashes. And also, since we do not know how to act, when to act, whether to act, therefore we are always acting under compulsion, and hence there is a great fear associated with all actions. If you look at people acting, if you remove fear from their actions, most of the actions too will drop. If you take fear away from people's lives, you have taken action too away. Subtract fear and you have subtracted action itself. So Krishna is saying, all that is not really enjoyable, is it, Arjun? To be always acting out of fear. And you act out of fear, or you do not act out of fear, whatever. But whatever you do does not stay. And it must not be a great thing to see your action, your creation crumbling continuously in front of your eyes. First of all, there is no enjoyment in action because your action is coming from fear. And then the product of your action itself is so perishable. Like building sand castles because somebody is holding a gun to your head. First of all, you are not interested in those castles. And secondly, with great effort, you build that castle. And what do you find? Swept away by the next wave. So said. And that's your condition here, Arjun. Dilemma with respect to action. So I'll tell you about action now. And then he says that before you are instructed in action, you must know the prerequisites. Krishna is being extra cautious this time because the approach of identities failed. Krishna does not want to suffer consecutive failures. So he's saying, first of all, I'll tell you about the kind of person who is able to listen to and benefit from what I'm saying. That's verse 41. He says, the karma yoga that I'm going to tell you now, the form of knowledge is only one, within brackets, and that knowledge has already been delivered to you in Sankhya Yoga. He says knowledge is one, but the listeners are divided into various categories and various branches depending on their prejudices, their standpoints, their egos. In the next verse, he will tell us of what kind of listener would benefit from his discourse. This is very important. Here is Krishna trying to ensure Arjun against successive failures. He's trying to tell Arjun how not to be. If you will be this way, Arjun, then even this approach will not work on you. The previous one has already failed, and this too will fail if you do not take care of these things that are now being mentioned to you in verses 43 and 44. 43 and 44 are to be read together. He says, O Parth, these are the things to be avoided if you are to understand Karma Yoga. O Parth, people with alpa buddhi, limited intellect limited by your insistence towards limitation. That is limited intellect. Limited intellect is not low IQ. Limited intellect is intellect circumscribed by the ego. What is ego? That sticks to a limitation. I am this limited body. I am this limited body. So limited intellect, alpa buddhi, has to be understood very carefully. Limited intellect does not mean low IQ or a lower brain cell count. Because that's how it would be commonly interpreted. And many of us would get a happy excuse. You see, what Sri Krishna is delivering in chapter 2 is only for those with unlimited intellect. And you look at me, I could not clear any of even the basic exams properly. How is this for me? So let me have my idli dosa and go to sleep. Sri Krishna has already said, I am disqualified. No, low intellect means, limited intellect means intellect that is serving the limited one. Intellect that is serving the limited one. Who is the limited one? Is the Atman limited one? No. Is the universe limited one? So neither Atma, the Paramarthic one, nor Prakriti, the Vyavaharik one, are limited. Who is limited? Ahankara, the Pratibhasik one. He is the limited one. It is the limited one. So intellect serving the ego becomes limited intellect. And if you have limited intellect path, you are on your royal road to one more failure. See, had it been about a physical inability, if you don't have a well-developed brain, that is a physical condition, right? Low IQ is not something that you can change on your own. Had it been about that, then Sri Krishna wouldn't have mentioned it. He is mentioning things in which Arjun has a choice. If intellect is a physical thing, if it is to do with the physical brain, then Sri Krishna will not mention it, because then it becomes something inexorable. You can do nothing about it. If one is born with a low IQ, how can one change it? It can be challenged to some extent, maybe, but so surely what Sri Krishna is referring to is not something physical. Otherwise, it would be like, oh Parth, those of small height cannot appreciate Karma Yoga. I mean, no, that makes no sense. Not because Karma Yoga does not depend on height, but because it leaves you with no choice. If a man is just 5 feet, it's not something that he ever chose. And all spirituality is about the ego, and ego is all about its choices. So if you ever find anything in spiritual literature over which you do not have a choice, then that's a red flag. Definitely a red flag. For example, if you are being told that you did something very nasty in your previous birth and therefore you are suffering today, you know that this is not a spiritual statement. You know that somebody is just fooling you. Because you cannot change your actions of the past, can you? There is no choice there. The entire field of spirituality and wisdom is about empowering you with choice, seeing that you always have a choice, so that you do not feel in bondage, so that you do not feel pushed around, so that you do not feel helpless. If there is no choice, then there is only helplessness. Spirituality is about telling you that even where you do not see a choice, the choice still exists. It's just that you think that there is no choice. The ego doesn't want to change. Therefore, it says, oh, there is no choice. I cannot change. But there is always a choice and you can always change. It is that change that is the subject matter of all spirituality. Are you getting it? So alpa buddhi does not mean, this one, full. Go away. Gita is not for you. This one cannot even tie his laces properly. And he's occupying one seat here. Come on, vacate. Let somebody else come. This one, he has always been flunking his maths exams. And he thinks he will appreciate the Gita. And then that fellow will very boldly, with one finger pointing towards the sky, quote 2.43 and 44 and try to prove that, it is not for you. You go to the kitchen and get me one more bowl of sambar. Forget this Gita. It is only for those with unlimited intellect, like me, of course. You prepare the sambar, you please. Get lost. Alpa buddhi. Very political, very social. It's a human construct, not a biological one. Low, what alpa buddhi, not low IQ. Alpa buddhi is a human construct. It's a thing of your own choice, your volition. You have decided to use your intellect for the reasons of the ego, and then your alpa buddhi. So if I have an IQ of 180, but my IQ is devoted to earning money, I have sold myself to the highest bidder. And they are saying, oh wow, fantastic chap, come and work for us. Create this great technology for us. And we will use it to decimate the enemy. Or we will use it to colonize some other planet. So that after annihilating the earth, we can populate that planet. Then in spite of having an IQ of 180, you are still alpa buddhi. And if one has even a below average IQ, let's say 85, but that person is devoted to serving the truth, then you could call him dirgha buddhi. Are you getting it? Or analpa buddhi. It is not what you physically have that decides your limits. Your limits are decided by whether you choose to serve the limited. Choose to serve the limited, and even the greatest things that you have become limited. And even if you are little, but if you choose to serve the great, you turn great. So pursue greatness with whatever little you have. And what does it mean to pursue greatness? There is no greatness anywhere out there in the universe to be pursued. Pursuing greatness only means challenging your limitations. Greatness is not to be pursued. Your limitations have to be pursued. pursued to be demolished. Don't run after greatness. You are only hallucinating. There is no greatness anywhere. Chase your littleness. Chase it and confront it. Confrontation is destruction. You don't really have to shoot it down. You look at it and it disappears because it was always a myth, an illusion. It never was. Just because you shied away from looking at it, it was able to secure its existence. The moment you come face to face, you find it is not. It existed only as long as you remained ignorant of it. Ignorant of it. Like the ghost in the dark room. You are outside the room because you are afraid of the ghost. Yes, but you defend it thinking of it. So if you have an idea of it, only then you can defend it. No, when you say I am defending something, there is something you have in mind. That something is illusory. So you have to confront it and see that there is nothing at all in the first place. If you say I am defending that, then you have some idea of that. Only then you will defend it. Otherwise, what are you defending? Now, that which you are trying to defend does not exist. It is the ghost in the dark room. Yeah, defending is ignorance. Defending is a choice to not to confront. Defending is, in that sense, lack of faith. Lack of faith. Or too much belief in oneself. I came up with some kind of belief and I have trusted my own belief no end. I have a belief and I am a super supporter of my belief. I don't even want to inquire. So the ghost in the dark room. How long does the ghost exist? Till you inquire. The moment you say, I'll have faith and guts to open the door and switch on the light, where is the ghost now? The ghost is gone. But you remain outside the door. And even a tiny rat squeaking inside the room becomes the mighty ghost. And you will have proof, ample proof. See, such and such noise, it keeps emerging from the room. And some great researcher in supporter of superstition will come and record the noise and say, now even we have scientific proof claim proving that there is paranormal activity. See, I have recorded. These noises were heard from the room. It's a haunted room. And there is proof, scientific proof. There is no limit to the distance supporters of nonsense can go to secure scientific evidence for their stupidity. And then they will say, now even science is supporting all these paranormal things. Of course, there is rebirth. One girl, she is 5 years old and she knows exactly where she comes from in the previous birth. She comes from the next village. And she can tell who her husband was in the previous birth. He's a kookaburra now. So there is scientific evidence now, you see. Your fear will create all kinds of evidence. Instead of creating evidences, why don't you just throw some light into the dark room? Yes, the ghost was there. Definitely the ghost was there. The name of the ghost is ignorance. Getting it? Now the next thing is extremely intriguing. And that will tell you the two streams that have been flowing in the religious domain. Sri Krishna says, those who keep praising all the kamya karmas of the Vedas, they will never be able to understand what I am saying. Goodness. Sri Krishna is saying, you see, what is the karma kand portion of the Vedas about? There are two parts broadly in each of the four Vedas. There is the part relating to rituals, so that's the Samhita part and the Brahman part. And then there is the part relating to knowledge, looking at yourself. There is this part that relates only to the outer world, all the gods and goddesses that are there in the outer world, how to please them, and all your desires related to the outer world. That part is called the Karma Kand part. And then there is the second part, the smaller part of the Vedas, that relates not to the things outside of you, but to the thing inside of you. That's called the Gyan Kand. It consists of the Aranyak and more specifically the Upanishads. Gita belongs to the category of Upanishads. And Sri Krishna is saying, those who are obsessed with the Kamya Karma of the Vedas will never understand what I am saying. What does he mean by Kamya Karma? Because everything that is there in Karma Kand relates to Kamna. Kamya Karma means action born out of desire. So those who are obsessed with Vedic rituals cannot understand the Gita, Sri Krishna says. If you are a person who keeps on doing all the stuff so that he can please the gods, to be benefited by them, then the Gita is not for you. Gita is not for those who are led by their desires, even if their desires take them to their gods. What else takes you to your gods? Please tell me. Except for your desire, what takes to your gods and temples? If you don't have desire, will you go to your gods and temples? Sri Krishna is saying, if you are one of those, then the Gita is not for you. Now this part deserves a separate chapter for itself, a separate body of explanation for itself. So we'll go into it later in the month.